Welcome, Storycrafts kids, to a timeless tale about choosing today's fun versus choosing tomorrow's peace. Our story takes place in the beautiful sunlit meadow, a place famous for its towering sunflowers and its loud, buzzing inhabitants. The sun shone brightly there almost all year long, making it feel like summer would last forever. Among the hundreds of creatures in the meadow, two stood out for their very different approaches to life. First, there was Anya the ant. Anya was small, strong, and incredibly focused. While others rested in the shade, Anya was constantly moving, a tiny speck of brown persistence. She was one of the lead foremen for her entire colony, responsible for gathering and storing enough food to last through the cold, harsh winter. For Anya, summer wasn't a time for leisure. It was a time for absolute, methodical, hard work. She believed that every single seed, crumb, and leaf fragment collected now was a shield against future hunger. Anya worked from dawn until dusk, often seen hauling bits of grain 3 times her size up steep hills and into the cool, dark tunnels of the anthill. She would often tell the younger ants, "We must use the sun to prepare for the snow. Preparation is the greatest magic of all." Her little legs never tired, driven by the knowledge that her entire community depended on her effort. She never complained about the heat or the weight of her burdens. For Anya, the satisfaction of a full granary was worth more than any nap or party. She embodied the rule of persistence. Never stop, never slow down, until the job is done right. Then there was Gavin the Grasshopper, Anya's complete opposite. Gavin was large, vibrant green, and possessed an unmatched talent for music. He spent every hour of every sunny day basking in the warmth, playing cheerful tunes on his tiny natural fiddle, his legs. Gavin saw summer as a spectacular, endless concert, and he was the star performer. "Why work when the flowers are blooming and the music is playing?" he would frequently chirp to anyone who would listen. He would leap from sunflower to daisy, sometimes singing songs he made up on the spot about the glory of being carefree. His philosophy was simple: live for today, enjoy the moment, and don't worry about things that haven't happened yet. He often watched Anya and the other ants with a mix of pity and amusement. "Look at them," he would laugh, strumming a quick, jazzy tune. "Slaves to their stomachs. They miss all the beautiful light." He truly believed they were wasting their precious summer, sacrificing joy for mere survival. Gavin's house was a simple, unprotected spot under a large, thin leaf, which was beautiful but utterly impractical for any harsh weather. He had no pantry, no blankets, and no thoughts of collecting anything other than compliments on his musical skills. For Gavin, the fun was the reward, and the work was the punishment. One scorching afternoon, Anya was struggling to pull a particularly large corn kernel across the path when Gavin landed right beside her. "Anya, my dear friend," Gavin cried, his tone exaggeratedly dramatic, "must you toil so relentlessly in this magnificent heat?" Anya stopped, carefully balancing the kernel. "Hello, Gavin. Yes, I must. The sun is high, and the days are still long. Perfect for storage." "A storage? For what?" Gavin asked, tilting his head dramatically. "The world is full of food. Just look around." He gestured grandly with a long leg towards the abundant flowers and ripe seeds scattered across the meadow. "It's for winter, Gavin," Anya replied patiently, wiping a bead of sweat from her brow. "The days will shorten, the ground will freeze, and this abundance will vanish." Gavin burst into loud, infectious laughter, leaping high into the air. "Winter! That's months away, little worker. Don't you know how to live? I know how to plan, which is much more important," Anya corrected gently but firmly. "Come, take a break. Listen to this new composition," Gavin insisted, playing a flurry of notes on his fiddle legs. "It's called The Joy of Doing Nothing." Anya sighed, her tiny shoulders heavy with responsibility. "It is a lovely tune, Gavin, truly. But I cannot. My work is not just for me, it's for everyone." She explained that if every ant stopped working for music, no one would have food when the cold came. Gavin merely shrugged. "Oh, there will be time later. I'll gather everything I need in an hour when the mood strikes me." He couldn't grasp the concept that preparation requires consistent, steady effort, not a last-minute burst of speed. He watched Anya resume her difficult labor, shaking his head at her dedication, and returned to his music, the sound drifting lazily across the meadow. Day after day, the scene repeated itself. Anya worked, Gavin played, criticized, and sang. The other animals were divided. Some admired Anya's diligence, but many were drawn to Gavin's charisma and constant fun. The summer slowly matured, moving into its final, golden weeks, a subtle change that only the prepared creatures noticed. Anya was elated. Her colony's main tunnels were completely sealed, and the subterranean chambers were packed tightly with provisions. The scent of dried herbs and preserved seeds filled the cool air of the anthill, a promise of security. Anya finally allowed herself a small 3-minute break, sitting on a leaf and stretching her weary muscles. She looked at the sky. The sun was setting slightly earlier now, and the evening air carried a crisp, cool edge. Gavin, however, was still playing, though he had to wear a thin scarf to keep the chill away from his delicate joints. He noticed the leaves turning orange and red, but thought, "How pretty! More color for my songs!" He still hadn't collected a single crumb, convinced that the warm weather would return to punish him if he stopped singing. "Gavin, please," Anya called up to him from the ground. "It is late autumn. The first frost is coming soon. You must prepare a proper shelter." Gavin waved his leg dismissively. "Nonsense, Anya. Just play me one final song before you go to your boring bunker." He played a fast, defiant melody, refusing to acknowledge the change in the world around him. Anya felt a wave of sadness for her friend, but she knew she had done all she could to warn him. She quietly returned to her colony, sealing the last entrance with a careful plug of mud and stone. The next morning, a profound silence fell over sunlit meadow. The sun rose, but it was weak and pale, and the entire ground was covered in a shimmering white layer. The first hard frost had arrived, signaling the abrupt end of the playful outdoor season. All the flowers withered, the tender seeds turned brittle, and the cheerful insects vanished beneath the frozen soil. Inside the anthill, Anya and her community were cozy, warm, and well-fed, enjoying the fruits of their endless labor. The atmosphere was calm, punctuated only by the quiet sounds of chewing and the soft murmur of ant conversation. Outside, however, the meadow was a picture of desolate misery, and shivering beneath his thin, frosted leaf was Gavin the Grasshopper. His bright green body was now dull and cold, his instrument legs too stiff to produce a single note. There was no food anywhere. The dew was ice, and the ground was as hard as rock. Gavin tried to jump, but his muscles ached, and his leaps were pathetic little hops that quickly exhausted him. He realized, with a terrifying certainty, that he had made a terrible mistake. The abundance he had mocked Anya for ignoring was gone. The time he had wasted was now his greatest enemy. His beautiful songs could not keep him warm, and his cheerful attitude could not feed him. He hadn't just wasted his summer. He had completely ignored the fundamental rule of life, the persistence rule. Finally, using his last reserves of strength, Gavin weakly hopped toward the only warm, solid structure he knew, the anthill. He scratched weakly at the stone plug, a pathetic sound in the overwhelming silence of the cold. Inside, Anya heard the faint scratching sound, muffled by the mud. She carefully opened a tiny peephole and saw Gavin, hunched and blue, shaking violently. "Anya, please, I beg you," Gavin whispered, his voice thin and hoarse. "I am freezing and starving. You were right. The winter came." Anya looked at her friend, her heart heavy with pity, but her mind clear with the lesson that needed to be taught. She opened the plug just enough for her head to fit through. "Gavin, why are you here? Where are your stores?" I have none," he admitted, hanging his head. "I spent the summer singing, just like you saw." Anya's voice was gentle, but firm. "My dear Gavin, all summer long I worked to store up food and build this warm home. I asked you to join me, to prepare just a little, but you told me that work was silly and that you would sing the summer away. Now, the season for singing is over, and the season for survival has begun. She paused, letting the cold reality sink in. She could not simply give away all her community's food, but she could not leave her friend to perish either. However, Anya said, her expression softening, we ants never let a creature suffer if we can prevent it, even if they ignored our warnings. I will give you enough to survive the storm, but you must understand that this is not a reward for singing, but a consequence of your lack of persistence. Anya retreated quickly and returned with a single, massive grain of rice and a small, dry seed. She pushed them through the opening. This is a life lesson, Gavin. The summer is when you must put in the effort. If you do the important, difficult work when the opportunity is there, you earn the right to rest and enjoy the challenging times. Gavin ate the small meal slowly, the warmth and sustenance spreading through his cold body. He looked at Anya with true humility and shame. I understand now, Anya. The persistence was the key, and I locked it away. He spent the rest of the winter huddled near the entrance, singing no songs, but thinking only of the lesson learned. When spring finally returned, and the sun began to warm the earth, Gavin emerged, thin but alive. He was still Gavin, he still loved music, but his approach was entirely different. He now sang songs only after he had spent the morning gathering small pebbles to reinforce his thin leaf house and seeds to store in a tiny hole. The persistence rule had finally taken root. Work hard first, then play with peace of mind. The moral of our story, friends, is that the effort you put in today is the comfort you receive tomorrow. If you loved the tale of Anya's persistence, please hit the like button. Share this important message about hard work with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to Storycrafts Kids for more great fables and moral lessons.